Welcome back inside the lab to the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, your number one source for betting, fantasy, and NHL news. And on today's episode, we're taking a look under the hood at how Steele and I are doing 1 month into the season in both of our listener leagues and a little bit of Auston Matthews news on the top. Let's tap in and let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Buckle up and here we go, hockey heads. It is your 30-minute source for daily fantasy, hockey news, and betting breakdowns, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And I'm joined, as always, by my distinguished co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. And on this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. You know what it is, guys. Shout out to the everydayers. Much love, thank you, and salute for holding us down and making us your first listen every single day. We wouldn't be here without y'all, and that's why today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if that bet wins. Hit $5 bet, FanDuel.com to get started. Steele, I'm really struggling today. I can't even say Auston Matthews' name. I've said FanDuel about 15,000 times in the last year alone. But here we go. And this is maybe slightly indicative of my sloppy fantasy play. We'll get to our teams. After the opening segment, we got to take a look at it. Both of our listener leagues, lots of interest this year. We got our casual and competitive, and we only say it that way for buy-in standards. I really don't think anyone in either league is casual. I think we're all pretty hardcore, but we'll break down both of our teams, take a look at what's doing well. I think that's mostly going to be a segment that you carry, and then we'll take a look at some of the things that aren't going well. I might have to lead the conversation on that one. But look, over to you, Auston Matthews, he's out. Day to day, we got to talk about it. Just like if it's just a hangnail or a busted toe, these guys are the kings of the league, and we got to take a look at it. So, number one, I don't know what you think about this start for Matthews, so I want your take there. What do you think this Toronto Maple Leafs team can do? He misses the Boston Bruins game on Tuesday night. Hit me with your take and what you're seeing here.
Well, the rest of the superstars for the Maple Leafs are going to have to step up in a big way, and we'll find out, obviously, tomorrow after the game takes place. We're recording before the game at 8 o'clock. But William Nylander, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, those are the guys we're looking at right now with Auston Matthews being absent in this game. The Houdini act once again for one of their stars against a division rival in the Boston Bruins. But, you know, it seems to be a lingering injury. That's what Mark Masters reported on earlier today as well. It seems that he's been dealing with this over the last couple of weeks, or maybe just up to a week, but it's something that has hindered his ability to play at a superstar level like we've seen. It seems like he's back to being a human NHL player instead of one of those gods that we usually put him up very high in those rankings. So, I mean, he's still been pretty good this season, very good actually, 5 goals, 6 assists for 11 points in 13 games. But compared to the way he started last year, back-to-back hat tricks to open up the season, you know, just continuously scoring at a rate that was almost unprecedented that we've seen in the NHL over the last decade. So Auston Matthews, he misses the Boston Bruins division rival game. Those other guys that I just mentioned, William Nylander, Mitch Marner needs to be a lot better. You can't be cutesy going over the offensive blue line or coming out, breaking out of your own zone. He needs to make some just clear-cut passes to his teammates and stop trying to be cute and make those very impressive plays. It's something that he does get to do a lot of the time, but this is the Boston Bruins. You know, David Pastrnak hasn't been at his best as well over the last couple of games. He's going to look out to play his best against this Maple Leafs lineup.
To me, when I'm looking at Auston Matthews, and let's get to our teams in a second, that's the focus of today's episode, but we always try and get you guys in and out in 30 minutes with all of the top news and, of course, fantasy takes that you need. Wrapping up every single episode with bets. We'll get to big-time bets. My boy Steele has been on fire for the most part. Your boy over here has a lot of work to do. To me, Steele, and I know you said, you know, he's off to a good start, a very good start, I think you said. To me, it's just not Auston Matthews-esque. And I think compared to most, and you said mortals, to most mortals in the NHL, and for most fantasy GMs, you're probably still okay with 5 goals and 6 assists. For me, it's a disappointing start. And maybe that's unfair
100%.
to say. If he is injured, then I'll retract my statement, because if he's still playing injured and almost at a point per game, then I think I'm still happy with it. I just need more. The man has 3 Rocket Richards in the last 4 years, and I just have those high expectations. So let's see what happens. For now, we'll keep it at he's day to day. We'll keep you guys updated. The Toronto Maple Leafs will be in trouble, however, if those players that you mentioned don't step up. We'll keep our eye on that as well. I got to turn it over to you now at this point, Mr. Roden. Let's start with our competitive listener league, which the last time I checked, I think the old steamy locomotive, Mr. Steele Roden train, is sitting neat and tidy near the top of the table. So over to you. What's working so far for you in this league? Hit me with your highlights wherever you're looking. I want to talk about this competitive, quote unquote, competitive league. Although I'd say this, I think both leagues are pretty competitive.
Yeah, both leagues very competitive, like you alluded to or said at the start. It's mostly just talking about the entry buy-in fee that we have for both leagues. $50 for the competitive, $20 for the casual league. But yeah, it's been a complete 180 compared to last season for these fantasy hockey listener leagues on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast. Your boy coming in second place. So he's standing in at second place right now. Blake Beefers and Cream. He comes in at number 1 on the so far this week. Obviously we've got divisions right here, but I'm in second. Blake's in first, and I'm looking for you. Bottom of the barrel right now. We'll get there eventually. Let's take a look at the steamy locomotive. Shout out to Loki, the French bulldog, back in the corner over there. But so far, this has been a very good year for me. And just looking at some of the differences that I've made on a year-to-year basis, some of the guys I usually don't go after that I ended up drafting this season. I love Sebastian Aho. I've never actually drafted him besides this season. I've got him both the casual and competitive league, I believe. So he's been phenomenal. Martin Necas has been incredible for the Carolina Hurricanes as well. So those are 2 players that I really wanted to highlight right now. I believe he has 18 points in his last 8 games for the Carolina Hurricanes. He's been absolutely on fire. So those are the 2 guys I wanted to highlight right off the bat. Sebastian Aho, Martin Necas. Obviously, I've got guys like Roman Josi, Brandon Montour on the back end who are helping fill out those peripheral categories. Maybe not bringing the most offensive touch right now, but that will come around eventually too. Then you go down the list: Connor Bedard, William Nylander, who have been the cornerstones for my for this competitive team that I have right now. And then I went the 0G strategy as well. I drafted goaltenders sort of later in the rounds. You're looking at Alex Lyon, Anthony Stolars, and Cam Talbot, who have been very solid so far. All guys have an above .915 save percentage. They've got 3+ wins. The goals against average is below 2.80 for all 3 of those guys. A couple of shutouts between the mix. So I'm fairly happy with how things have turned out right now. Again, I've drafted a lot of players or picked up some players that usually I would have stayed away from. I think the one fault I'm having right now is I'm still holding on to Cutter Gauthier for some reason. He's still, he's still filling out the peripherals a little bit. He's got 28 shots on net, but other than Cutter Gauthier, I'm very pleased with the way my team is shaping out to be right now. And I'm still not getting enough from, we're still not seeing enough from Luke Hughes, Jamie Benn. Roman Josi only has 7 points. Brent Burns only has 3 points. So I think when those guys start to get a little bit going, this team is going to be very ferocious, very hard to beat against. And I was looking at the overall categories because we do a categorical league. We go based off of that. And for the most part, on a weekly basis, I'm winning all those peripheral categories I'm talking about on a weekly, every single week. Shots, blocks, hits, and that's translating over to the game-winning goals. That's translating over to the assists and the goal totals as well. So I'm absolutely loving my team right now. The competitive league, I'm coming in at second in this week, and I'm up 3-1 in my matchup going into Wednesday.
I love it. I have a few comments about your team because I actually think, Steele, you were saying you're happy with Sebastian Aho. I think he can bring it so much more. So I think maybe you're right that your team is going to be ferocious, perhaps. I know 3 goals and 6 assists nothing to shake a stick at. I just think he can do so much more. And
100%.
let's talk a little bit more about your team. We'll unfortunately have to talk about my team here. But I think there's a lot to be said about it's still very early. And I'm not even going to try and chirp your team. But when I look at mine on paper, I have a finger on, not the pulse, because clearly I haven't, but on what I need to do better. Let's talk about it after the break. Let's talk about our other league. Let's also talk about big time bets for Wednesday night's 3-game board. I'm coming in hot, Steele. We're having a big Wednesday night, starting with talking about our friends at PrizePicks. You want to be checking out PrizePicks every single day and throwing down a few predictions for one of the best fantasy sports apps in the country. Nathan McKinnon, more than 5 points, or over under 1 goal. Evander Kane, he's out, but when he comes back, he'll be throwing those hits. You can wager on that too. How about Pasta? 2 or more shots on net. Predict any of these, and you could be winning big with PrizePicks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's PrizePicks. Run your game. You're on mute, brother.
Mute button once again
He's
gets
back.
me. I thought I hammered it off, but we're back. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episodes. Real quickly, I just want to go up to the matchups. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the matchups right now. It's the Steamy Locomotive, my team, versus the Askarov Bench Press. Again, it's only Tuesday right now. This is when we're recording. It's Wednesday. Yeah, great names. But I'll go back to the week prior. Tied this one 5-5. But as you can see, winning most of those categories: assists, penalty minutes, power play, shots on goal, block. I'm at least winning 2 out of those 3 categories, those peripheral categories on a week-to-week basis. And just going back to this week as well, won 8-3 in this matchup against Stu Grimsome. Again, just getting those peripheral categories, the hits, the shots on goal. I'm winning shots on goal category every single week. So that's going to continue to translate over to the goal column, to the goal, to the assist category, power play, game-winning goals as well. And then, like I said, that 0G strategy, drafting those goaltenders late in the round has really helped me kind of solidify that offensive touch, but then also get that value with some of those goaltenders on the back end. Stolars, who's coming in and has now solidified himself as the number 1 goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Alex Lyon and Cam Talbot is a very solid tandem to rock with on your team as well. The Detroit Red Wings still need to get going a little bit, but so far they're getting some good goaltending from both those guys.
Definitely looking good now. It's just you can't help but feel, and I'm not trying to poke holes because I've got Jordan Binnington, Calvin Pickard, Ilya Sorokin, and a whole bunch of mess over here. But that's not something that I would actually ride home too much on. For now, looking good. Cam Talbot and Alex Lyon as your goaltenders doesn't have me feeling super confident, but I guess it really doesn't matter right now when you've been able to build the winner up front that you have. So taking a look at my team, Steele, Binnington, Sorokin in the cage, that's been a concern for sure, especially because Patty Waugh is really cheesing me with this deployment situation. I still think Sorokin's going to be the guy by the end of it. And looking at my squad, there's a clear issue for me here. There's a lack of offensive firepower, and I have a whole bunch of guys that are just kind of ho-hum okay. And look, Mason McTavish doing nothing. Pavel Buchnevich just kind of there. Jake Gensel, slow start coming on. I've got nobody that's really jumping off the page except for Leon Draisaitl. And then I just have a whole bunch of guys that are just pretty good covering peripherals, but I don't have that real offensive punch. And then when you look at what's going on my back end, Miro Heiskanen, Gustav Forsling, relatively quiet for the most part. And other than, even Brock Faber here and there, he's been pretty good. Other than Victor Hedman, if my blue line that I invested quite heavily in is underperforming, and then I don't have the punch up front offensively, this makes a whole lot of sense that I'm losing basically every offensive category. And I'm going to have to go to the waiver wire, which I have done so on my goaltending market. Alexei Kolosov, who is now looking like, with Samuel Urson out on Philly, and this is where I wanted to go first. I just picked him up. I'm not trying to say this guy is going to go off and win the Calder or something crazy. 2 games so far that he's played, only 1 start, hasn't looked great. He's looked pretty good, though. And he is actually going to get more run out than Fedotov right now. And with Urson out, I'm hoping that I might be able to slap a Band-Aid situation on him. Considering who I have in net with Binnington and Sorokin, that's going to have to be how I kind of operate. Do I think I'm going to get more from Tuck, Heiskanen? I think I'm going to see Jake Gensel kind of go off. Do I expect Mason McTavish to pick up? Yes, I do. And I still like my team, but I'm basically a week or 2 away here, Steele. If I fall too much more behind the 8 ball, I'm going to have to get pretty aggressive here with some moves. So, I've loved what I've seen from Victor Hedman. Gensel, I believe, up to 13 points. Casey Middlestat for me has been a revelation. And I think that there is still a ton of value in guys like Cooley, Tuck, and otherwise. So
yeah,
I'm not going to write myself off just yet. I've also gone up against some red hot matchups that I've come fairly close to winning and just gotten dusted. That's the nature of the game. I've gotten beat fair and square. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I'm not giving up on myself just yet. And if you don't mind, let's head over to this casual league where I'm doing a little bit better. I actually don't know where you are at in this league, but why don't you take it away and have a look at your squad over in the quote-unquote casual side of things. But once again, this is no disrespect to any of our listeners saying one's casual and one's not. However, shout out to everybody interested in our leagues. Steele and I really, really appreciate y'all.
Yeah, really appreciate everyone that tunes in on a daily basis, everyone who showed love and support over the summertime, obviously leading up into the NHL season, as well as everyone who is interested in joining these leagues. We had so many people want to participate this year. Unfortunately, it's just a lot to handle. We already got 2 leagues, 16 teams per league. Again, we had so many people. We want to get everyone in there as much as possible, but trying to, manage and be the commissioner for multiple leagues of that stature right now. It's a little
doing a great job, by the way, Mr. Roden.
We got other leagues as well outside of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod, so we got to keep it honest and real out there. Casual league, nothing casual about it. Everyone is still as competitive as those in the competitive listener league. And it's, again, a little bit of a better turnaround this year compared to last year. You and I are actually in the middle of the pack right now. You're coming in out of 8 out of 16 teams. I'm in the 7th position right now. So we're looking pretty decent right now. The win-loss tie record ratio is looking in our favor. We're both above 500%. We'll go back to my team.
Please.
Again, all my teams are named after my French Bulldog Loki back there. So Locomotive 2.0. It's been a good season. Again, cornerstones for me. Connor Bedard, my boy JT Miller out there. Alex Ovechkin, who's been phenomenal. Martin Necas in both leagues as well. Brandon Montour in both
That's
leagues.
That's been huge for you, Steele. Let's just pause there for a second, if you don't mind, not to interject. Necas has been sensational, and I didn't
100%.
realize you had him in both. So I just wanted to tip my cap to you there. He is one of the hottest players in the NHL, and that's, I think, actually been massive for the Carolina Hurricanes. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, it's a great point. He's been phenomenal for them because Sebastian Aho could be a lot better. He's got 9 points on the season so far. Seth Jarvis has got under 10 points. Andrei Svechnikov has under, I think he has 10 or 11 points. So all of those guys have been fantastic, but it's really been Martin Necas who's been phenomenal for them offensively and running that production in the offensive zone, capitalizing on all those opportunities. I think what sets this team apart as well, again, look, I have almost the exact same goaltenders, Anthony Stolarz, Cam Talbot, Pyotr Kochetkov. I went with Kochetkov because the injury concern with Frederik Andersen. Look at how that's turned out. So these are the things that have kind of set me apart. And honestly, again, once Zach Hyman gets going a little bit, once Alex DeBrincat gets going a little bit more, some of those guys who are just underperforming to start the season, that's when I think this team is, again, ready to explode once they get going a little bit. 2 guys I need to point out. Nino Niederreiter, for me, has been unbelievable for the Winnipeg Jets.
I love
Just
Nino.
Look at those stats. 5 goals, 5 assists, 31 shots, 25 hits, and 6 blocks. He's getting it done on the power play as well. He's got 3 power play points. Had to mention him. I've got him in multiple categorical leagues, and he's been one of those guys that you pick up off the waiver wire. Look, he's rostered at 44% right now. We should have been talking about him probably over the last couple of weeks for waiver wire Mondays.
I may have. I think you missed that one. I got you.
Oh, maybe you did get him, but
Nino
Niederreiter has been phenomenal. Right above him, Stephen Nason of the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
What an ad for this lineup right now. 6 goals, 13 points total, 22 shots, 36 hits. He's filling out the peripheral categories as well. He's been an amazing pickup for me. I got him last week off the waiver wire. So again, things are just looking up right now for me on both these fantasy leagues in the Locked On Fantasy Hockey realm. And it's really just waiting for those cornerstone guys, like I mentioned, Zach Hyman, to get going. He's got his first 2 goals of the season finally. So waiting on that to kind of get in full gear for this casual team.
I just appreciate you carrying the pod right now, Mr. Roden. Look, the man's out here lagging the rear. And, I'm going to admit to it. I mean, come on here. I think I've said this to you a lot. We make a lot of predictions. We say a lot of things on the show. But the point is you come on here and you take it on the chin and you don't back down, because realistically, we're going to make some mistakes. We're going to have some bad predictions, but I think we've had a whole lot of good ones as well. I'll mention 2 things quickly about my team right after the break, and then we'll get to big time bets. Let's get there, though. Why don't you giddy us up with a little ad read here?
3 games on the schedule Wednesday, and I'm cooking back again with the same game parlay. So make sure you're staying tuned for later this episode. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 bonus bets. Who doesn't want bonus bets worth up to $150 if you win your first $5 bet? That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episodes. Flip, over to you, my friend, before we get to big time bets. Let us get the rundown on your fantasy team.
Super quick. Again, looking at the numbers, I'm going to start in the cage. Philip Gustafsson has been sensational this season for the most part. Great numbers. He's right there at the top of the league in goals against average. So is Ilya Sorokin. And I think if this is a little bit of, advantageous thinking. I'm thinking that sooner than later, Sorokin is going to take back that crease. And then I really do like this team. Vinny Trocheck, Huberdeau, Evan Bouchard has been quiet. I think there's some pieces here that have been very silent. Huberdeau had a good start, now has cooled off. That I'm not expecting to go off. But I got Neil Pionk. He's had a great start. Brady Tkachuk, Matt Boldy, Macklin Celebrini, Sean Monahan. This is the team that I have a lot more confidence in, especially when a couple of my favorite picks, and again, Steele, my blue lines I assembled in very similar ways. I tend to like to go back end out to the front, and that's usually a strategy that I think works out. And this year it hasn't. Evan Bouchard, disappointing. Miro Heiskanen, obviously disappointing. And I took these guys in the eye. I know you like that one. And I think both, though.
I didn't want to say it.
I'm not. No, it's okay. It's okay. You're right so far. But again, I'm not writing them off yet. We're 1 month in. And I know a lot of GMs out there want to scramble and make 1,000,001 moves. And it can work out. But it can also really burn you. And when we're in 14 and 15 and 16 GM leagues, I'm not dropping Evan Bouchard to pick up, Matt Benning and a couple of other bums 100%. For the peripherals. So at this point, I'm kind of too invested into these. And that's why I totally understand the 0G in the cage strategy. And you can just let go some of these goalies. Sorokin, Gustafsson, I'm going to be fine in the cage. I think I'll get there. And I think this team of the two, I got Trocheck on the bench as well. I think I mentioned that. I like my forward group. Celebrini's back healthy. I'm liking it. I'm also liking Steele these bets for Wednesday night. And if you don't mind, I'll just segue into my first pick very quickly here. Nashville at Washington. 5 straight games between these two teams have gone under the number. I don't know if you saw the clips from the Nashville Predators, Ryan O'Reilly, and otherwise. This team is a bit of a mess right now. They cannot create offensive chances. They look completely disjointed in the O zone, and there are already calls for Andrew Brunette's head behind the bench. Considering all those moves and all that money in the lineup, I don't exactly disagree with them either. So let's get it out of the way. The Washington Capitals have looked nasty. Nashville can't score. Let's go with the under 6.5. That's my first pick between Nashville and Washington. And remember, 5 straight games between these two, under the number.
Look, that is one of the most unfortunate starts to a season ever. I mean, they spent all that money on Jonathan Marchessault, Steven Stamkos, Brady Shea, and they went 0-5-0 to start off their first 5 games of the season.
They're last in the Central still.
Yeah, they're last in the Central. They're bottom 3 in the Western Conference right now, and it's just not good enough. So completely agree with you on that one. I actually tweeted, I forget what game it was, but I was like, if they lose, I think it was against the Chicago Blackhawks. I was like, if they lose this game, Andrew Brunette's going to be out of a head coaching job by next week. They actually came back and won that game 3-2, I believe. So saved his job for now. But if it continues down that road and down that path, he's most likely to be the first head coach fired this season.
I could see it.
I'm looking at the Chicago Blackhawks and Detroit Red Wings game. I've got a same game parlay. I'm liking all 3 of these picks. And the first pick, I'm looking at that over 6.5. Now, in the last 10 games, it's been pretty dead even, 50-50 between the over and the under. I believe 6 of the last 10 have gone over the number. I'm liking the speed. I'm liking the skill in this game. I think the goaltending is going to open up a little bit, and there might be some chances for a lot of those top 6 forward guys to get in on the action. I'm looking at the over 6.5. That's my first pick. Second pick, again, same game parlay, Connor Bedard, 2+ points. He had 3 assists in that 4-2 win against the Anaheim Ducks. He had 3. He went 3 straight games without a point. That's not Connor Bedard like. You know he's a generational talent. You know he's going to be a point per game player for almost his entire career. I'm looking at a multi-point game for Connor Bedard, 2+ in this game against the Detroit Red Wings. That goes to my lock of the night. The Blackhawks are at home. Again, pretty even against the Detroit Red Wings over the last 10 games, but I'm going with the Blackhawks on the money line against these Red Wings for my lock of the night.
Yeah, I like it. And thank you so much for teeing that up so nicely for Connor Bedard. I think I messaged you a couple of nights ago saying, and, obviously before the 3 points, 3 assists explosion, saying, where is this kid at? And this isn't one of those situations where I'm trying to predict, we overhype this kid. That's not even close. That's not the fact. That's not the case. He is nasty, and he is going to continue to get his. And I think being as young as he is, 3 points after 3 pointless games is going to mean huge things for his confidence. So, second pick of the night, Connor Bedard, anytime assist. In 2 previous games against the Detroit Red Wings in his career, obviously, very small sample size, but I like bringing that up. 2 assists for Bedard. I think this is one of the, it's not my lock of the night because I like my next pick even more. But it's up there, and I think you just, at this point, Steele, you just smash all of these together and thank us later. Lock of the night. When Alex Ovechkin starts to shoot the puck like he's shooting the puck, and now he has arguably the best Capitals group that he's had around him in a number of years. I'm not here to say that the Washington Capitals are a force to be reckoned with in the East, although it's starting to look like that. I'm starting to say Alex Ovechkin, with this kind of confidence, he's going on a heater. And I would say Ovechkin anytime point. I would also say Ovechkin anytime goal, but I'm trying to butter this bread and I'm trying to bounce back. So 3 or more shots on net for Ovi. That's my lock of the night. I believe the last game he had 5. Previous to that, he had 6. And then he won a couple of games with 2 or 1. So I think you're actually going to get a pretty good odd here. But considering how much he's been shooting that puck and with confidence, I'm feeling just as confident in my lock of the night. Hit me with Alex Ovechkin, 3 or more shots on net, along with my other 2 picks, Bedard anytime assist, and the under in that Nashville-Washington game.
I'm loving the lock of the night. He has been red hot right now. I believe he's actually on pace to break the record as well by the end of the regular season.
Oh, yeah.
7 goals, 14 points on the season for the Great 8. Those are the locks. Those are the picks for Wednesday night. 3 games on the schedule. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. For your second listen, you got to go check out the Locked On NHL podcast, where the season never ends, providing national expertise with a local perspective. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Once again, for both Flip and I, we wish you good luck with your bets tonight. Make sure tuning in for tomorrow's episode where Flip and I are going to break down some trades across the fantasy leagues and the fantasy hockey community as well. We're going to break down some of these egregious trades I've been getting. We appreciate all the support, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.